We're now on our fourth Sunday of Advent. Only a few days left until the big day comes. And a lot of times when we think about the last Christmas preparations, we think about home. Getting the Christmas meal ready, having the presents under the tree, everything's centered at home. We're trying to get on that last flight home to be with family. It's about home. And if we think about that first Christmas, Christ wasn't home. Everything was so imperfect. Mary must have wanted to die, thinking that, oh my gosh, I'm having the Son of God, and now we're on the census, it's cold outside, we can't find a place to stay. I don't have any warm anything for anyone. Mary could have seen so many circumstances and wanted it to be different, and she probably did. I would assume so. And Christ was born in a stable. He was born with smelly animals. He didn't have everything he needed. He wasn't at home. And yet he was exactly where he was supposed to be, and that made it home for him. A lot of times when we talk about God's will, because today's second reading talks about that I don't want sacrifices and offerings, but I've prepared a body for you, and what I want is to fulfill the will of God. When we think of the will of God, we can think of it as something like outside of me. This is what, it's kind of like this blueprint that God, this is what I want you to do. So it's like God who's over here, and he gives me this blueprint of what I'm supposed to do, and it's something that these are actions that I do. It's something I'm moving towards or whatever. But really the will of God, his whole plan of salvation, his plan for Jesus himself, is for us to live in communion with him of love. That's his will. So whether I walk through the door 5 minutes early or later, it's not like God has this plan where oh, you walked through 30 seconds too late, so now we have to readapt everything. No. His plan is about love. And it's about the way we relate to each other. It's about the way we interact with each other. It's even about the way we relate to ourselves. Because that's where we are with him. That's where we're in communion with him. So Christ was at home. He wasn't at his home. He wasn't at his Nazareth address. But he was at home. He was where he had to be that Christmas. We might all, especially all the political situations all over the world, there's so many things that we could wish were different. And we might think that that's what things need to go in a different direction for the world to be how it should be. Or we can wish that in our own family, that the person who's not there was there, or that the one situation that's difficult was different. There's things that we might think this technically should be different, and we work to make those things different. But in reality, it's not so much that we have to get everything to be in a perfect way, or what we consider to be perfect. It's being like Christ there, that little baby who entered weak, because he was just a weak little baby. He entered into a cold cave, lacking so many things. He didn't have what he needed. And yet he was there because the most important thing was him being there with his father, with his mother, letting himself be loved, loving them through his own presence, his simple presence, because he couldn't do much more than be present. And that's what we all can do this Christmas. We all can say, I'm home. I'm where I need to be, wherever I am. And whatever the circumstances are, I'd like them to be different. And maybe it's the right time to ask forgiveness to someone, to reach out, make a phone call I haven't made in a long time. But that has to come from within. When I'm in that sacred presence with God within myself. Because when I'm there and that presence is authentic, it automatically translates to outside of me, to those around me. And not always in the way I'd like to. I might still have my personality, my way of handling things. But there's a love there. And there's a desire to be present there. And there's a desire to connect with others there. To do good to others, to receive good from them. That's what it means to be home for Christmas. And these next few days that we have until Christmas, that big day finally comes, Let's continue preparing with Mary by just opening up our hearts to receive in every circumstance the good and the bad, taking care of the things I can take care of, but also living with peace the circumstances that are there. Being willing to love, even if we're not always doing a great job of it, but being willing to love in every circumstance, and knowing that no circumstance impedes that love. No circumstance impedes me living in that communion with God that leads me to communion with others.